Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. Thank you for listening. We would like to remind you that this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Known as just a silly boy with a feely heart. Please consider supporting the show. Check us out on Patreon or simply leave a review on iTunes. Here's your host and creator of the show, Known Wells.
Hello, feely humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells, and this is episode 132 with my guest, Amber Cole. Amber is a therapist who specializes in substance use disorder, child welfare, and social policy. And you know, I wasn't going to release a new episode in June, but Amber and I just finished talking and recording this episode, and it was so powerful, and I was so moved by the conversation, and we talked a lot about what's happening in the world right now and the violence toward the Black community and people of color. And we talk about white fragility and overt and covert forms of racism and how white people like myself, white people of privilege, can better embody active, daily, thoughtful anti-racism work. And so it was just such a important conversation, and Amber speaks so eloquently and beautifully on the subject that I just had to get it out. So this will be the last episode for the month of June. I'm taking the month off, but you'll see new episodes back in July. So I hope you stick around and make sure to leave reviews for You, Me, Empathy in all of the places, because it really does help out the show. Amber and I, we also talk about her sort of personal mental health journey and her growing up with a mother who had substance use disorder. And she just beautifully and compassionately shares her experience with that. She also shares how she was born with fetal alcohol syndrome and how she's using her life experiences and childhood experiences as fuel for empathy, understanding, and healing for herself and others. Like I said, she is a therapist, and she's just doing tremendous work. I really enjoyed this conversation. She is just such a gem of a human, and I want you all to follow her online because she's amazing. I love her voice, and we need to lift up the voices of people of color like Amber, because she is amazing, and we're here for her, and I'm here for her, and I love her. Anyways, make sure to follow her on Instagram. Amber's on Instagram at Translucent Resin. That's TranslucentResin. Translucent Resin. Give her a follow. That is linked in the show notes as well. But really enjoyed this episode. I hope you do too. What else do I want to say? I just want to say that I am just, and I say it in the episode, but I'm just appalled and dismayed and heartbroken by what's happening right now. But there are things we can do, and we can do it every day, and we should be doing it every day. Don't lose hope. Keep fighting. Don't be complacent. Don't be silent. Speak up. When someone in our lives who says something that's a more covert form of racism, a racist joke, or something of that sort, call them out. And we can do it compassionately, right? But we need to call them out because this racism is systemic and persistent, and what is happening right now, this violence that is happening right now in the world, is not new. But what is new is your heart and your ability to, I guess that's not always new. That has always been the case, but I'm seeing, and we talk about it in this episode, I'm seeing, a much more strong fervor of anti-racism work and activism, and we need to keep that going. We need to keep it up because we need to burn this system down, metaphorically or not. So that's what I have to say. I guess I'll also shift into Feel the Human stuff, which you guys, as you know, if you listen to the last episode, Feely Human is out. Feely Human, the Feely Human Collective is here for you and is live to the world. If you go to feelyhuman.co, feelyhuman.co, you can buy a shirt, buy a sweet pin, write for the journal, lead a workshop, and take my free empathy workshop, Feely Human 101. It's free, and it's a 2-week online workshop that I hope you sign up for and love because I put a lot of work into it. But definitely go over to feelyhuman.co, see all the ways that you can collaborate and support and improve your capacity to empathize and be vulnerable and to be emotionally curious. So go over to feelyhuman.co and give Feel the Human a follow on the socials at Feel the Human, and make sure to follow You Me Empathy, of course, at You Me Empathy. Leave us a review in Apple Podcasts. It really does help out the show. Thank you. And again, I'll be back with new episodes in July. So thank you for hanging in. Thank you for your patience. I love you. And truly, you'll love this episode with Amber Cole. Enjoy, Feely Humans. Oh, and P.S. You may hear that Amber calls me Non a couple of times in the episode. Hey, that's okay. My name is spelled N-O-N, and she didn't know, and I didn't correct her, so that's my own damn fault. I still love her. It's just a name. We still had an amazing connection. Okay, enjoy the episode. Bye, bye, bye. Welcome to You Me Empathy, the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective. On this show, we explore the struggles, the triumphs, the brights, and the darks we face as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You Me Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. You Me Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I am so honored to be here with new friend and family therapist specializing in co-occurring disorders, social policy, and child welfare. It's Amber Cole. Hello, Amber.
Hi, guys. Hi, Nan.
How are you?
I'm doing really, I would say I'm doing okay. There has been a lot going on in our nation this week. So I'm kind of processing that and dealing with it on my own, but also trying to help others at the same time. So I'm doing okay. I'm doing better now than I was earlier in the week. So that's good.
Yeah. Let's get right into that because we always kind of kick off the show with an emotional check-in. I, my heart, Amber, is so immensely heavy right now, and I'm tearing up just thinking about it. I'm finding that there's an immense tragedy happening and occurring, and it has happened and occurred for forever, right? And it's awful, and it's devastating, and it's frustrating, and it makes me angry, and it makes me sad and depressed. And I think, hearing you say I mean, I say all that as a person who has privilege, a person who is white, and I can't imagine what you are experiencing or going through, but I feel you on the surface of like, I am trying to do what I can to support, to donate, to amplify voices of color, to have conversations about these things with people in my life, and at the same time feeling just so distraught by it all and the lack of empathy and love and care for our fellow human. It's
Yeah.
fucking hard, and my heart goes out to everyone and to you, as someone who identifies as a Black woman. I can't imagine what you're going through.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for sharing how you feel about this. And I think it's important that we also recognize that not just people of color are hurting at the loss of George Floyd, but there is a world of people, and I mean literally people across this entire across this entire world are protesting. I saw videos in Germany yesterday. Because they just know that this is not okay and that it cannot continue in the United States. So thank you for sharing how you feel. It does matter, and I validate your feelings. But as a Black woman, like you've said, yes, it's been just terribly hard. And like now I'm getting choked up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have to think about, that video when we talk about this. I have to think about what we saw, what the world saw. And every time I think about that, I'm just so sick.
Yeah.
It's absolutely like just devastating to the core to know that somebody can take someone's life and feel no regard while doing it. So I'm okay now because I see my people and other people standing up for what is right, and I have hope. And I have faith that it will get better. Maybe not immediately, but I am encouraged by what I see. So that brings me to a better place today.
I mean, I'm grateful to hear that you have hope, but it's just like, I wonder, again, as a white person and my sort of perspective on this, we see the thing is, Amber, we see this happen, right? We see this happen, right? And it's happening now, where George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and others who have died,
Yeah.
and this has happened before, right? And when we talk about justice, and we understandably riot and have so much anger and donate, and I wonder what your perspective is on like how is this time, how is it different from maybe other times in our lives where we've seen this type of violence toward people of color? Because it seems like we go through these cycles of violence, and the maybe a cynical part of me and like a depressed part of me sees it as like, how I hope in my heart that it's changing, but like, how is it different? Like, how is this time? How are you holding on to hope in this time as opposed to other times where, our humans, our fellow humans and people of color have been subjected to this type of violence before?
Yeah. So you make a really good point. And Governor Cuomo of New York even made mention to all of the names of victims of police brutality in a press conference. And then stated, yeah, this is why people are rioting. This is why protesters are out here. I'm with the protesters. And not to bring his name into this, but he has a platform and it's resonated with so many people. And even with you, as you've said, this has happened over and over and over and over again. I feel like this time there is more activism being done by not only everyday people, but people who otherwise might be silent. Like Netflix has made a stand, Nike has made a statement, celebrities have come out, people are giving resources, people are amplifying Black voices. I've never seen that in my life. I have never seen social media platforms list names of African American educators, and writers and therapists, and just put that out, using their brand to their hundreds of thousands of followers. I have never seen that before. And so that gives me hope, because these people are following these people, and that opens up dialogue for, people who otherwise wouldn't follow Black educators or Black leaders or Black therapists to have conversations and to learn from them.
Yeah.
Which is very important. To see their lifestyle, to see their perspective, not just their narrow timeline of what they want to see or what they previously only saw. So I think that we're in the middle of a brand new civil rights movement. And I think that people are not going to let up until something happens. Now, I don't have control, and no one else has control over how the justice system will play out in the trial. We have seen time and time again, justice not being served on that level. But I do believe that people and humanity in the United States are seeing what's going on, and hopefully they will start to educate themselves on how to be anti-racist so that we as people can at least start to get along.
Yeah. I'm encouraged by that, and I thank you for sharing that. I do agree in the sense that, you're right. I have seen so much more activism, and even myself, I'm I think it's a great deal. Like, white people need to, and for the white people listening, and I'm talking to myself too, need to get uncomfortable. And that's kind of what it takes. That's part of it. Like, and that's discomfort is part of change, right? And so I've had to sort of question my own, unconscious biases and perspectives, and that's truly what empathy is. It's really challenging those perspectives that we have, either conscious or unconscious. I took a class by Monique Melton a couple weeks ago. It was an anti-racism 101 crash course, and it was excellent. And if you guys aren't following Monique Melton, please do so. She's amazing, and there are so many amazing people like her, Erica Hart, Ashley Ford, so many amazing voices out there that are and have been educating and sharing wisdom that we all need, especially white people need now. And I keep seeing the silence is violence, or silence is being complicit in this violence. And I believe that to my heart. I think that's true. I think there's no longer, you can't just say you're not racist. Like, you can't just like believe that. You need to actively take action. You need to be motivated and educate yourself and read books and support and donate. And that's an everyday thing. Yes. And I'm telling myself that just as much as everyone else listening.
Right. So being anti-racist is not a checklist. It's not like, okay, I didn't do this. I didn't do this. I did do this. It's not that. It's a lifestyle. It's an everyday thing, like you just said.
Right. Right.
So, and then I think also people are becoming aware of what overt and covert racism is. Some people don't even know that they've been acting racist through covert methods. They don't know that their denial of white privilege is a form of covert racism.
Right. Can you, for the listeners, explain some examples of covert versus overt racism?
Sure. So, like, overt racism is like the things that we all say no, 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 no to, or the things that everyone basically understands that you just don't engage in this behavior because it's taboo, it's not right, it's racist. And so that's like the KKK walking down the street in their hoods. That's overt racism. Or like hate crimes, you know, those things like graffitiing explicit racial terms like the N-word, right? That's overt racism. Or racial slurs or racial jokes, or literally seeing someone lynched, that those are overt, socially unacceptable forms of racism. But the covert, you know, styles of racism, like I've said, denial of white privilege, or not believing in the experiences of people of color or indigenous Black people of color, blaming them for where they are. Well, it's your fault. You had the same opportunity as us. Things like that. Or saying things that are not nice or kind, and then just kind of brushing it off by saying, oh, that was just a joke. Not challenging racial jokes. So you're in the same room and you hear someone say something racist and you don't say anything about it. That is a covert form of racism. There's videos of a police officer last night putting up the white power sign, and his partner smirked and didn't do anything about it. That's covert racism. Hiring discrimination, right? I have seen this, but I've only seen it to benefit myself, which is like the suckiest thing ever. I've always been that one person, that one Black person on the team. And I've noticed it my whole life. Like even in high school, I was the only Black varsity cheerleader on my team. How?
Yeah.
How? Like how? And there were many Black girls who tried out who deserved a spot on that team. But also, I've been in work establishments where I've been the only Black person at that job. When I worked at I feel like I'm just kind of exposing things right now. But it's just my experience. When I worked at the YMCA, I was the only Black summer camp counselor. And so like that type of thing, leaving room for only one,
right,
or two, right? Anti-immigration policies and things like that. So mass incarceration and police murders, things that we've seen time after time and time after again, but there's still a split of the way that people think. So half think, oh, it's okay, it's justified, and half feel like it's wrong. I guess all the police brutalities before George Floyd. Yeah. Covert racism.
Yeah, thank you for sharing some of those. It's interesting, I think that we all have a responsibility for this, and I've been witness to certainly covert forms of racism, and I'm sure listeners who are listening to this now have experienced it as well. Whether it's someone in your family say a joke or make a comment that is very prejudiced in some way, or what have you. We need to call those people out. We need to say, and we can do it in a way that's not, mean. We can be empathetic. We can be kind. We can come from a place of I want to educate you because this is the right way to do it, and that is the wrong way. And I think that's an important element to this. Is I think there's I'm getting this feeling, this sense from some white folks who have a chip on their shoulders, who have a defensiveness about this, because they're feeling uncomfortable, and that's where you go. Sort of, that's your first, surface level emotional response is like, I'm going to feel defensive, but put down those defenses, because this is stuff you need to hear and stuff you need to be educated on. And I'm talking to myself again.
Yeah, I totally agree. I guess I'm just a really positive person, but I do feel like white people are stepping up and trying. I've seen that over the last week via social media. And so I do have hope that people are trying to take down those defenses that you talk about, and they're trying to listen. I've had so many people check on me, people that I don't know, people that I've only known on social media saying, hey, I just want to tell you that I'm here for you. Or, hey, I'm very protective over your boys. These are white people who have messaged me this week. Are you okay? How's your heart? I feel hope because of that.
That's beautiful.
So I do want to share that. I think people are trying.
Yeah. What is your sense as a therapist? What is your sense of the impact on mental health for the Black community?
Right. So a repeated exposure to traumatic experiences like police brutality can cause a lot of negative effects on the Black mental health, individuals, like on their psyche and the way that they think and perceive things. And this, as we've said over and over again, is not the first time that we have physically seen on video the shooting or the murder of a unarmed, non-resistant Black man. And so repetitive exposure to that can cause for people to start to fear police officers and think negatively about what they're here for, because they're not showing us, or because the negative things that we're seeing in the media and seeing on social media everywhere, those things are not showing us that they're here to protect and to serve us. So we, in return, start feeling these secondary vicarious trauma symptoms that cause us to feel disassociated from ourselves, angry, upset, mad, hypervigilant, guilt, and sometimes very sick, like physically. And we're overwhelmed, and we can't go outside without thinking, if I get pulled over, what am I going to do? Am I going to have a camera ready? Are they going to respect me? Will they take me out of my car? Will they even be respectful of the fact that I'm a human being? And so all of those feelings start this flight or flight response, because when you have acute stress, your psychological reaction is for you to either run or freeze or deal with the problem. And right now, I feel like people who are terrified mentally are out writing and or protesting for what they are so sick and tired of. But these traumatic experiences also impact our nervous system. So if we're feeling overwhelmed, and if we're feeling threatened, and if we're feeling like no one's here to protect us, then we're going to deal with these secondary PTSD symptoms.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. What is your sort of extending from that or bouncing off of that, what is your sense of how that is being looked at and cared for? Because it's my understanding, and I've had a few guests on who've talked about this, is just as a general sort of blanket thing, mental health awareness in the Black community, there's room for improvement, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's room for improvement across the board, of course, but within the Black community, like, how is that piece of the puzzle fitting into like the sort of ongoing trauma that individuals are experiencing?
Well, that's such a good question. And first, I'll speak about the research to it. There isn't much research about the effects of the Black psyche as it relates to their mental health after seeing these police brutalities, but there is some, and it's coming out, and it's coming out fast and strong. And so people are starting to use that and engage in it and teach it. And hopefully from that will come evidence-based interventions. But right now, I feel like that is a very underserved area in our community. The ability to come up with resources, not that we don't want to, but this is all very new, and it's just being published and it's just being recognized, to come up with resources that we can implement right away when these things happen, so that we can protect ourselves from going into these stages of feeling these symptoms of hypervigilance and fatigue. I have seen everywhere, I'm tired, we're tired. Have you seen that, Nan?
Yeah.
Everyone is tired, and that is because they are literally physically drained. They are and emotionally drained. They are tired. And this is a symptom of the vicarious trauma. Even though these brutalities are happening to other people, it is very possible that the community is accepting the same trauma as if it's happened to them as well, because of the repetitive exposure. And so it's personal. And so there are coping skills to regulate your central nervous system and to help identify if there's a real threat, if you're out and about, or if you get triggered. But as far as evidence-based interventions for these feelings after police brutality, I'm not aware of them right at this moment.
Right, but like, what can a Black person like yourself, or maybe you can just speak personally to what you've been doing. Like, how have you been trying to take care of yourself during this time? You mentioned feeling tired and feeling triggered and feeling obviously very traumatized by this repeated exposure to these, whether it's you're actively participating in sort of rioting or seeing these videos of murders and things. Like, how are you supposed to take care of yourself during this time?
Right. So for me, I have created space for myself. And it's really easy to get washed into this wave of finding more information and staying on social media and checking hashtags and being involved in some sort of visual stimulation as it relates to gaining information on the brutality. And that sometimes you need a space from that sometimes. Sometimes you have to say, okay, I'm going to create a space where I'm not involving myself in the active participation of researching what's going on, so that I can't be triggered, so that I can take some deep breaths, so that I can center myself, bring myself back to homeostasis, and gather my thoughts. Because if you're constantly trying to see what's happening, Atlanta protests, and then now you're going to Minneapolis, and then now you want to look at LA, and then now you want to go look in Miami. If you're actively doing that, how can you even think of what you really truly think or feel? So creating space to feel and creating space to kind of understand what it is that's bothering me so that I can tackle tackle whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So that I can begin to heal on my own, so that I can begin to redirect whatever thoughts or images that are causing me to feel pain or anger. So just so that I can feel better. So recognizing my body temperature, recognizing how I'm breathing. Are my shoulders tense? Are my jaws clenched? How am I? And regulating my temperature in my space that I've created outside of media and outside of my phone or people or ideas, but just figuring out, how do I feel and how can I help myself to understand what's happening so that I can begin to heal and then make a difference through advocacy.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I think can be applied, kind of across the board. I think we all need space to feel our feelings, right? If we're in it 24/7, 365, there is no space to really feel our feelings. It's just this onslaught of, stimuli. And I think, as humans who need to feel our feelings, who need to breathe and get to homeostasis, as you said, like we need that space. So that's such a good reminder for all of us, I think. Thank you for that.
Right. And I also think that it helps that you disconnect before bedtime, because a lot of people are reporting, I can't get to sleep. Or I finally fell asleep at 4 or 5 a.m. because of what's going on. I can't stop thinking about what's happening. But if you allow yourself to disconnect a little before bedtime, maybe pick up a book, maybe listen to some music, anything unrelated, maybe that will help as well, so that you can kind of help your body to start, and I don't know, I guess when I do it, my body feels a little bit more at peace before I go to sleep. So
yeah, no, that's a good point for sure. I try to do that as well. So how are you still seeing clients during this time as a therapist, and how has that been going? Has this stuff we're talking about been brought up?
I have not stopped seeing clients. I see them through telehealth though.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely love telehealth. It's so convenient because, my children are out of school. And so I can stay home and I can be with my clients, and then I can attend to what I have to. They're in school as well still. They're not out. So I've loved it. But I have not had sessions really that have brought this up yet. I do believe that it will happen next week. But I haven't had clients who have brought this up yet.
Yeah, I mean, so you as a therapist dealing in, co-occurring disorders, substance use, things like that, like traumatic events, can, cause issues in those areas, right? Like as someone who has depression, like myself, like whenever I'm trying to, like, external things impact it, right? External things like this that are this collective trauma, right? And this, heartbreaking thing that's happening in the world. These things impact our mental health. And so, yeah, that would make sense if, it's brought up at some point.
Right. And those things are called triggers. So like our urges or like my clients would gain an urge, or my clients would gain a craving because they're triggered. And it's them wanting to suppress a feeling of unhappiness or depression or anxiety for what's happening. So they feel, in order to suppress this, I might need to use a substance. And that's another issue going on right now. People are engaging in negative coping skills to deal with what's happening, like drinking excessively, misusing substances, abusing them, just to deal with the repetitiveness. So I am.
Are you talking about? Sorry, are you talking about I mean, I would say that coronavirus and what's happening in the news in terms of police brutality and murdered people.
Right. Well, I was talking about police brutality, but yes, coronavirus has had a lot of my clients very triggered as well, not being able to go out, changing their meetings, their NAA meetings to online meetings or virtual meetings. And just that change alone could be triggering for anybody. Not having supportive devices, not having enough data on your phone so you can make a meeting, all of those things. But luckily for my clients, they have a world of support. It's not just myself. They have a peer specialist and a care coordinator. So it's 3 people who have given their time weekly to be with these clients who are in outpatient treatment. So they can call on any of us.
Yeah. You mentioned some of your patients or you specialize in substance use disorders. Do you want to share your history in that area and why you sort of got into that field?
So I just like to explain a little bit about what I do so that it's easier for everyone to follow along. But basically, there's this child welfare system, and the child welfare system is comprised through the Department of Children and Families or the Department of Social Services. And these entities have different agencies who work for them. So these agencies might be called Children's Home Society or a Family Resource Center or any sort of agency that deals with children. In these agencies, there are case managers, and these case managers basically have 40 or more sometimes, which is just absolutely tragic, cases where they are in charge of meeting with these families, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to on their court-ordered case plan, and making sure that the family has support in the reunification of their children. So where I come in is I am an agency, or I am a part of an agency underneath those child welfare agencies. So let's rewind. A call is made to 911, and it's because there's abuse or neglect or domestic violence or something, anything, right? And the cops come, and the cops observe that there are children present. So the cops will then call a child protective investigator, and that investigator will come and see what the children have been exposed to. So if there was a domestic violence incident and the children are in the home, then the child protective investigator will probably put both parents in a parenting course and in DV courses. And if those parents tested positive for any substance abuse, then the CPI will also recommend that those parents are put in a substance abuse program. I am in that substance abuse program. So when they get referred to a substance abuse program, they're usually here in the state of Florida, or at least in Miami-Dade, referred to the Family Intensive Treatment Team. And I am a therapist within that Family Intensive Treatment Team. And it's where these clients then come and meet with me once a week, or I meet with them. And we work on gaining insight to how substances have caused problems or issues in their lives. And then we work on their sobriety. So there's different levels to this. You could be marked high risk, unsafe, or you can be marked just unsafe. And depending on the severity of the call or what was happening in the home it depends on where you're being placed in the substance abuse arena. So you could be getting placed in like a 90-day treatment type of outpatient thing, or I've had clients for sometimes almost 2 years because it has taken them that long to be compliant in their services with either myself or other entities like domestic violence or parenting. So I do it all. I do parenting, I do domestic violence components, and then I do obviously trauma-related work as it relates to individual therapy and then substance abuse, and then also family therapy with some of the clients and their family members as well.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for sharing all that. It's I think it's very helpful to contextualize what you do and where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And specifically, do you want to talk about sort of your experience growing up in a world with substance using parents?
Yeah, so thanks for reminding me. I
You're
got
welcome.
into the field of substance abuse almost by accident, Nan. I was
Hmm.
in my master's program and I was placed into a rehab facility um, for my internship. I didn't choose it. I didn't know I was going to be assigned to it. And then here I am in a rehab facility. And I had no idea really and truly what I was getting myself into, especially at this rehab because it was funded strictly for Ryan White patients. And if you're familiar with Ryan White is an agency that funds those who have HIV.
Hmm.
So the individuals at this rehab were funded through that, and also they were accepted if they were homeless. So I dealt with a homeless population of people who I've learned so much from. And from rehab, which I just like to say I really enjoyed my time there. I went to outpatient. That was my job. But I didn't even really choose that job. The job kind of chose me in the sense where, as someone came in to speak to my class, and I went up to her and gave her my resume, and then I had a job interview and I got the job. So I accepted the job. But I
Wow.
never knew
Yeah.
that I was going to be doing this type of work. And then realizing that it actually has something to do with my purpose. So I'll rewind now. I have I I grew up with a substance using parent, like many people in America and in the world. And I, because of that, have dealt with the consequences and have seen firsthand what children go through for a parent who is on substances fighting for their kids. And it's so crazy, Nan, because I never thought that I would have a job helping parents get their children back. Because their children have been removed from them. They're in foster care or they're in kinship care, meaning they're with a relative. I never thought that even though that happened to me and I was that kid, that I would be helping parents so no more kids had to deal with that. And it kind of just happened on its own, and it's kind of been like my life purpose at this moment, because not only am I able to be empathetic because I understand it, but I lived it,
Right.
you know. And then on top of that, I have the academic experience and the work experience, so it's just like an encompass of just support to my clients, as it relates to understanding like true substance abuse and why, you know, addiction is here in this world and how hard it is to beat it, but how possible it is to do so at the same time.
Yeah.
But I was it's a lot, but I kind of didn't have any say in how I was going to be born, like no one else. But I point out myself in the fact that in the womb, I was already experiencing neglect. And people, you know, don't really understand how important it is for you to have a safe fetal environment. And we really don't talk about it that much. We just say, don't drink, don't smoke while you're pregnant, eat healthy foods, right?
Right.
But we don't really talk about what could really happen to you if you do use drugs or drink while you're in the womb. And so a little history lesson, and you guys probably already know this, but in the 80s, the late 80s, a lot of inner cities and a lot of America was dealing with a crack epidemic. And so there was this war on drugs, and there was this 3 strikes law, and people were being disproportionately sent to prison for the use of crack or the use of cocaine, going back to our police brutality segment, but also about injustices, right?
Yeah.
People who did crack cocaine went to jail longer, and then people who did cocaine did not, or people who did crack cocaine couldn't afford lawyers like those who did cocaine, that type of thing, the punishments. But it plagued inner cities and neighborhoods in the late 80s, and everybody literally was dealing with knowing somebody who had an addiction to crack, whether it be your mom or your dad, your cousin or whatever. And that was the case for someone in my family that happened to be my mother. And so she just dealt with that kind of, unfortunately. But what really, really stinks is that she had a full life before the drug. And by that, I mean, she was in college. She was very active in college. She was in the Student Government Association. She was a homecoming queen. She even ran for like the misses of the university, right? So the pageant queen of the university got first runner up.
Wow.
She was everything. And she met my dad. My dad had just served in Germany in the army. She met my dad. Well, actually, they knew each other in high school, but my dad went off to war and he came back, and they met again at her job. He went in to get food, and they started talking or whatever, and she was okay. She wasn't using, and then she was introduced to it by a friend. And obviously, that's how it happens. You're introduced to it, right?
Right.
But some people are predisposed to, addictive behaviors, and some people can't handle trying substances because then it leads to addiction because of their environment or because of what they're predisposed to or biological factors or whatever. My mom just happened to have tried it and could not stop using it. So she kind of fell from grace a little, for lack of better words. She went from being like everything and super popular and so beautiful. She was. My mother has beautiful green eyes and she looks sort of like me. And she started using secretly. You want to know why? Because my dad was a cop.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Yeah. What a dynamic that is.
I know. And my dad tells this story with so much love and so much support for her. But he was married to a woman who was soliciting illegal drugs and using them, like buying them and using them. And he had to deal with the consequences of that. But loved her so that he went with her to treatment, to AA meetings, and so forth. So my mom found out that she was pregnant with me in treatment and finished her 90 days. That was back in the day when treatment wasn't really as focused as it is now. It was really new. It was new to send somebody there for that drug. And because my mom is so charming, she did very well. And she came out, but then she continued to use. So my mom had to be Baker acted when she was pregnant with me. Do you know what that means?
No, please explain.
So that's just involuntarily committed. That's just that's the way we say it here in Florida.
Gotcha.
But she was committed and literally chained to the hospital bed just so that she wouldn't use because she had 2 kids in her stomach. I'm a twin.
Wow.
And she just couldn't fight the urge and those cravings at that time. So she had to be watched. She had to be babysat by her family members and my dad's family members and, her siblings. And this lasted the entire pregnancy. We were actually born premature and in NICU, my brother and I, for a month. Just trying to develop the way that we were supposed to in the womb, fighting for our lives. Literally, my brother fought for his life when he was born. But we were obviously underweight and born addicted to substances, both alcohol and cocaine. And I was diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome, which I did not know until last week.
How do you discern this information?
Talking to my father, who swears he told me.
Wow.
And I'm like, Dad, I don't remember you ever telling me that I was born with fetal alcohol syndrome. And he was like, I told you. And I even spoke with my stepmother. She was like, this is why you had to have surgery on your eyes, because I was born with, for lack of a better word, lazy eyes, where like they would cross-eyed. And like I could be looking right at you, but one eye would go right, one eye would go up or down. And that there's a high percentage of children who are born with that, who have been exposed to substances, especially alcohol in the womb. And so my stepmom was like, this is why you had to have corrective surgery on both of your eyes at 10. We told you. And I'm like, yeah, I don't remember. But I do remember, the surgery. And I do remember being bullied for my eyes. But I don't remember, understanding why I had to have it done. But that's okay.
Yeah.
But so I found out literally a week ago, just asking my parents, my stepmom and my dad, some more information about my childhood. And that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Amber, is your mom still around, your biological mother?
No. That is a good question. She passed away almost 5 years ago. But she did not pass away from substances. She actually had about 12 or even more years clean.
Wow, amazing.
Yes. However, a lifestyle of using put her health in jeopardy.
Right.
And also being Black and knowing that we're at some of the highest rates for diabetes and high blood pressure and asthma and those things. My mom developed some of those diseases, and living in a group home, she was not cared for right. Yeah. And she actually got a bed sore, which caused her to get sepsis, which caused her to have E. coli, which caused her kidneys to fail, which caused so many things due to her mistreatment in her group home. They did not care for her the way that they should have. They let her literally just sit in a bed with her mental health diagnoses. And it literally ultimately ended up in her, being the reason for her death at only 50 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm deeply sorry.
Yeah.
You speak about her, just hearing you tell your story and that experience, you speak about her with such compassion.
Yeah, I love her. I'm able to do that only because probably I understand addiction. I understand how it happens. I understand that it is a brain disorder. It is nothing personal. And because I know that, I'm able to forgive her. Actually, I feel like, what is there for me to forgive her for? In fact, I'm upset with the disease. My mom was a good mother. She tried. And I remember everything. I remember her fighting for us in court. I remember she dressed so well. I remember her finally getting unsupervised visits. I was 8. My parents divorced when I was 4. It took her 4 years to get a house and to get unsupervised visits. She did that for us. And we finally were able to spend the night. And we were finally able to spend time with our mom without having someone there to watch us. My mom made it to that point.
Yeah.
But relapse. And to be honest with you, and to everyone listening, she actually relapsed right in front of our faces, my brother, my sister, and myself. And I had to be the one to call my dad and say, my mom relapsed at the age of 8. And after that, I had never, ever been able to stay with my mom again. Not even as an adult, my mom has come to my home. But as a child, I was never able to stay with my mom again. Legally.
Yeah.
At all, period. My dad wouldn't let it happen. Well, first of all, my mom didn't have custody. My dad won custody. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But again, understanding addiction and understanding that it's a disorder. It's a substance use disorder. She had multiple substance use disorders. I don't know how as a kid I didn't find anger for her, or as a kid how I didn't hate her, but as an adult, I still don't. And I know why. It's just because it wasn't her fault.
Yeah. I'm so moved by what you're saying, Amber. I have goosebumps. In fact, I think what you're speaking to is the epitome of what empathy can be, right? So you have this experience growing up that, on the surface and in real life can be very traumatic, right? You're dealing with a mother who has substance use disorders, and you're having to call, at 8 years old, and all these things that are implied in that, and you go and you become a therapist, and you learn about this stuff, and you educate yourself, and you learn about substance use, and you learn about these things that your parents or your mother experienced, and in that pursuit and in that education, it further strengthens your compassion and empathy. And I think that's just amazing and beautiful to me.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm so truly moved by that, because it's quite incredible. I think what you've gone through, that's traumatic. That's very traumatic. And to be where you are and to do the work you're doing, it's quite remarkable.
And again, it was by accident. Like, I didn't seek out that placement in my internship, which ultimately led to the job that I have now. But I'm so thankful for how, the universe aligns you into your purpose, and how you're built for your purpose, and how I'm able to use my past and my pain and that trauma, because believe me, there was so much trauma related to all of that. And I'm not even talking about literally things that my mom has done, but just living in that atmosphere alone can create, traumatic experiences for anybody.
Yeah.
And or not being able to see your mom when you want to because she's in treatment. I visited my mom in insane asylums. I have visited her in hospitals. I have visited her in group homes. I have visited her in treatment. My dad was really good, and my stepmother was really good at making sure that I visited my mom wherever she was. But when I couldn't, even that's traumatic. So I'm just thankful for the letters that we were able to write back and forth when she was in treatment. And even for the $2 that she would send me to buy ice cream for me and a friend.
I love that.
And for memories like that.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how, obviously you have firsthand experience, but for kids who are in households with parents who are, you know, using alcohol or drugs? Like, what is the impact of that? Just like, as you know, from your therapist perspective, like, what are the kids going through? How are they responding? What is their reaction?
Wow. That's a really, really deep question because it's multi-layered. Kids who are dealing with parents who are on substances probably can't give them time or safety because they are involved in a cycle that is literally overtaken by the dopamine release in your brain that just keeps saying, you want this desire, you want to feel this pleasure, get this reward because you'll feel better, right? And then you seek this reward, this motivation, this desire to have this pleasure. You get the reward. It's amazing. It's euphoria, right? Just imagine just what a substance can do and how it feels. Like if you smoke weed, what it does for you, or if you take any sort of pill, what it can do for you. You finally have that reward, and then you come down from that reward. So then your brain, the dopamine, is telling you again, seek the desire. Remember the reward? It's reinforced. So a parent is in the home, literally in this vicious cycle of motivation, desire, reward, reinforcement. Motivation, desire, reward, reinforcement. And because of that, they're not there for their kids. And so a kid could literally be left to fend for themselves, creating their own meals, taking care of their siblings, the oldest one taking care of their siblings, making sure the mom is okay or dad is okay when they're passed out, taking on the parental role until DCF is called. It's very traumatic.
Yeah. Wow.
With that comes arguments, yelling, screaming, inability to regulate yourself. And so therefore you can't regulate your kids. So when they're upset, you're going to beat them. You're going to hit them. You're going to curse at them. And then now here I am thinking I need a reward because I'm upset. So here comes the desire.
Right.
And now I need to reinforce it so I can feel pleasure. It's a cycle.
Wow. My dog is tap dancing in the background.
Hi, dog.
He's my best friend. He's a 13-year-old black lab who's just so sweet.
Aww.
And he's the best.
Even your dog understands rewards.
He does. Yeah.
So what do you do? Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say I like to think of I like to live like my dog in a way because he's very present, right? He lives for the moment. He has no biases, you know. He's just open-hearted, you know.
Yeah, I'm picturing him right now. He's super cute.
I'll send you a picture after this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, so I was just going to say, what does your dog do before he receives that reward? Is there any action that he may do? Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like if we're talking about like a treat or something, right? He goes into his place, right? He sits, you know, or he lays on his tummy, you know, he's subservient to, you know, to get the reward. He knows that the reward is coming, and so he acts accordingly.
Yep, and that's exactly how it works for us as well. And with the dopamine and the increase of dopamine, and knowing that a reward will come if you only act on what brings you that pleasure. So
yeah,
that's how addiction kind of works.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I love talking to you. You have such
Aw.
you have such a like you can sort of speak with such like personal stories on like a very deep personal level, but also like as an educator, like you just have this educator quality to you that I think I love. I just love.
Thank you. I love you too.
Ah,
Thank you for creating this space. I'd like to just tell you, I have never shared ever, ever publicly about my diagnoses when I was born. So this is something that you have done by creating this space for me in hopes that it will help many other people listening. And I thank you for that.
well, thank you for saying that, and that's what this space is about, and I thank you for your courage to talk about it and your vulnerability, because you're right. Our vulnerabilities allow others in and allow others uh, uh, and healing, right? Allow others to connect and relate and to see themselves in a fellow human. And so I thank you for your vulnerability.
Thank you.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, Amber, we always talk about our empathy heroes. So people in our lives or characters from stories. Anyone that is just emblematic of someone who's just very empathetic, compassionate, leading with their heart. I will go first, and I mentioned her earlier, but Monique Melton is my empathy hero this week. I'll link her in the show notes. I don't remember her Instagram handle off the top of my head, but I'll link her her Instagram in the show notes. She's just doing tremendous work in educating, and she has a number of courses on anti-racism that I highly encourage all of you to sign up for, and to support her and to donate to her time and the work that she's putting out into the world. She's a tremendous voice. So Monique Melton is my empathy hero this week.
Hi, Monique. I don't know who you are, but I'm going to go search for you right after this.
Yes.
Thank you for all that you're doing for anti-racism material, and that's just awesome.
Yeah. So empathy hero for you, Amber.
Okay, so I would have to say my very best friend. Her name is Hope Baker, and I have known her since I was a teenager. She has been incredibly there for me in this moment of finding out more about myself, and just giving me that space. And when you have a friend who will cry with you,
That's the best.
And that will give you a shoulder and give you the room and the space to be and to learn and to process. That's her. And she's incredibly patient. She has been so kind. All of our, throughout the entire time that I've ever known her, we used to have these things called under the cover talks when we were like 12. And we would spend the night, and whatever it is we were dealing with, we would go underneath the covers and talk about it. And this was like things that would hurt us, or the things we were struggling with mentally, or like, I remember my dad was going through a divorce and she was there for me then, but it was under the covers. It was safe. And from then, and even today, we have those virtually. She's in Texas right now, in Houston, getting her MSW. And I'm just so thankful for her empathy. I love you so much, Hope, forever and ever and ever.
I feel that you, Amber, and Hope should have a podcast called Under the Cover Talks.
She is a social worker.
I mean, it seems kismet.
Yeah. Well, maybe. That's dope.
Yeah. Well, Amber, thank you so much for being a part of You Me Empathy. Would you please let the Feely humans out there know where to connect with you?
Yes, so I'm on Instagram at translucent resin, one word, translucent resin.
Amazing. Well, listeners, that will be linked in the show notes for this episode. Amber, it was such a pleasure, such an honor. Thank you for being a part of You Me Empathy.
Thank you for having me.
And to you listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's You Me Empathy.